What if I told you that everything you think you know about dinosaurs is actually the opposite of what you're about to discover? You've probably spent your whole life imagining dinosaurs as these violent, aggressive creatures locked in constant battle. Monster-sized predators with nothing on their minds but hunting and domination. Here's what will blow your mind. Dinosaurs weren't dangerous at all. In fact, they were probably the most relaxing animals that ever existed on Earth. Stay with me here. Most dinosaurs weren't eating each other constantly. Most dinosaurs weren't fighting territorial battles every single day. Most dinosaurs, and this is the shocking part, lived in peaceful, almost zen-like states of being. Imagine 150 million years of relative calm. Imagine an entire age of creatures whose primary concern was literally just eating plants, hanging out together, and existing in harmony with their environment. The real monsters? Asteroids, volcanic eruptions. Not dinosaurs. But here's the thing that makes this truly mind-bending. Understanding dinosaur peace changes how you see your own life right now. And I'm going to show you exactly how. By the way, if you're from somewhere amazing and watching this at an unusual hour, drop a comment below and tell me your country and what time it is for you right now. I read every single comment, and I'm genuinely curious about our global audience. Are you in Japan at 3 a.m.? South Africa at midnight? Eastern Europe watching this before work? Let me know. And if you're not subscribed yet, seriously, why not? Hit that subscribe button. We're going on a journey together through 210 minutes of content that will fundamentally change how you think about these magnificent creatures. This isn't just dinosaur facts. This is dinosaur zen. Let's start with something that's going to make your brain hurt in the best way possible. Think of it like this. If you imagine human civilization as a single second on a clock, dinosaurs owned that clock for an entire week. The Mesozoic Era lasted approximately 186 million years. To put that in perspective, modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. That means dinosaurs existed for 620 times longer than humans have been around. And that's not even accounting for the fact that humans only developed agriculture 12,000 years ago. So compared to the agricultural revolution you learned about in school, dinosaurs existed for 15,500 times longer. Your entire existence, your whole civilization, everything you've ever known, it's basically a blink compared to the time dinosaurs had to just be. Dr. Paul Barrett, a paleontologist at the Natural History Museum in London, has spent his entire career studying sauropod behavior patterns across different geological time periods. What he discovered is that the Mesozoic era is so vast that we actually need to break it into 3 distinct periods: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. Each of these periods is so enormous that species in one period would be completely different from species in another period thousands of years later. Think about it. Humans went from hunting with spears to landing on the moon in 300,000 years. Dinosaurs had 186 million years to evolve, adapt, refine, and develop. That's not just more time. That's incomprehensibly more time. Here's what will blow your mind. The Stegosaurus and the Triceratops never actually met. They lived millions of years apart. That's right, 2 of the most iconic dinosaurs? They weren't even alive at the same time. The Stegosaurus went extinct about 80 million years before the Triceratops even evolved. What this massive time scale tells us is something deeply relaxing. There was no rush. Dinosaurs didn't need to compete in the way we imagine. Life moved so slowly across these millions of years that ecosystems had time to develop into perfectly balanced, harmonious systems. Growth was gradual. Adaptation was leisurely. There was time for everything. Let me give you a visual that might help your brain grasp this. Imagine a calendar, one single calendar year. Now imagine laying 186 million of those calendars end to end. They'd stretch about 95 million miles. That's basically the distance from Earth to the Sun. The dinosaurs? They filled that entire distance with their existence, and not in chaos. In steady, calm development. Dr. Jack Horner, the legendary paleontologist from the Museum of the Rockies at Montana State University, revolutionized our understanding of dinosaur growth patterns when he discovered growth rings in dinosaur bones, similar to tree rings showing that dinosaurs grew at steady, predictable rates. This wasn't chaotic evolution. This was orderly, methodical development. Everything was calm. Now we're getting into the science that actually explains why dinosaurs were so peaceful. For decades, scientists thought dinosaurs were like modern reptiles, cold-blooded, sluggish, needing to sun themselves to get warm. That's completely wrong. Here's what research has actually shown. Most dinosaurs had metabolic rates somewhere between modern reptiles and modern mammals. Some scientists call this mesothermy. Think of it like this. If cold-blooded lizards are at a 1 and warm-blooded mammals like us are at a 10, dinosaurs were cruising along at a comfortable 5 or 6. This changes everything about their behavior. A creature with a moderate, efficient metabolism isn't frantically hunting all day. It isn't in constant stress mode. It's stable. It's calm. It's energized, but not anxious. Imagine feeling like you've had exactly the right amount of coffee, not jittery, not sluggish, just perfectly awake and at peace. The research on this comes from studying isotope ratios in dinosaur bones. Dr. Rees-Berek and colleagues published groundbreaking research showing that bone oxygen isotope compositions in dinosaurs indicated body temperature stability that was much higher and more consistent than cold-blooded reptiles, but also evidence of regional metabolic differences, suggesting dinosaurs maintained their internal temperature through moderate physiological activity. Here's what will blow your mind. This metabolic calmness might actually explain dinosaur behavior better than anything else. A T-Rex with a moderate metabolic rate doesn't need to eat every single day. It doesn't need to be in predator mode constantly. It can exist in a state of efficient operation, hunting occasionally, resting frequently, living a life that's economical in terms of energy. Think of it like this. Your phone battery lasts longer when you're not running every app at once. Dinosaurs weren't running every app. They were running a few essential programs at a time. Digestion, slow movement, temperature regulation, and this left them in a state of profound metabolic peace. What's fascinating is that this moderate metabolism actually matches their size. Dinosaurs were large, yes, but not so large that they needed to be frantically eating. Their size was perfectly calibrated to their metabolism. They were energy-efficient giants. The relaxation aspect becomes even clearer when we understand that stable body temperature means stable mood. Humans get grumpy when they're cold or overheated. Our cognition changes. Dinosaurs with stable internal temperatures would have had stable neural activity, stable emotional states, and a generally calm disposition. If a dinosaur had your anxiety about your job, its moderate metabolism wouldn't let it sustain that anxiety for long. Its body just wouldn't produce the cortisol cascade that human anxiety requires. These creatures were literally biochemically incapable of being as neurotic as we are. Here's something that completely changes how we think about dinosaur life. Many dinosaurs lived in herds, not just any herds. Coordinated, structured herds that moved together, protected their young together, and created complex social systems. Think of it like this. Imagine a peaceful human village where everyone cooperates, no one is violent, and the entire community works together for survival. Now multiply that by thousands of individuals, and you're starting to approach how some dinosaur herds operated. The fossil evidence for this is stunning. We have trackways' actual footprints preserved in rock, showing multiple dinosaurs walking together in the same direction. We have bone beds where hundreds of individuals of the same species are preserved together, suggesting they died at the same location, which they probably called home. Dr. David Varricchio at the University of Montana has done incredible research on dinosaur nesting behaviors and discovered that some dinosaurs showed evidence of parental care. The Maiasaura, literally, good mother reptile, left. Distinctive bone beds where parents seem to have remained with their young for extended periods. Here's what will blow your mind. If dinosaurs were caring for their young, that means they had maternal or paternal instincts. They had emotions. They had bonds. These weren't mindless creatures. These were animals capable of love. When you're part of a herd that functions peacefully, your stress level drops. You're safe. You have protection. You have community. Every piece of fossil evidence suggests dinosaur herds weren't violent clusters of competitive individuals. They were cooperative systems. Some scientists have observed behavior in modern herd animals that gives us clues about dinosaur life. African elephants travel in herds with clear hierarchies and incredible cooperation. They mourn their dead, celebrate their young, and move as one coordinated unit. There's no constant violence. There's just peace. Dinosaur herds probably operated similarly. The larger individuals protected the smaller ones. The group made decisions collectively about where to move. The young learned by observation and stayed close to the elders. This is incredibly peaceful, incredibly calm. Think of it like this. You know that feeling when you're part of a really good friend group? Everyone has your back. Everyone's moving in the same direction, and you feel safe? That's probably what dinosaur herd life was like. Extended, peaceful, protective. The social harmony aspect of herd behavior is deeply relaxing to even think about. These creatures literally moved together through millions of years, coordinating, cooperating, and supporting each other. They had what we might call social health. Let me tell you something that will completely change your stress levels right now. The vast majority of dinosaurs were herbivores. Not just some, the vast majority. That means they didn't hunt. They didn't kill. They didn't have predator mode activated 24/7. They ate plants. Now here's what will blow your mind. Plants don't run away. Plants are abundant. Plants are everywhere. This means that herbivorous dinosaurs lived in a constant state of food abundance without competition in the way we imagine. Think of it like this. Imagine if every meal were available to you without any effort. You don't need to worry about where your next meal is coming from, because it's literally everywhere around you. That's herbivore life. That's 150 million years of culinary security. The sauropods, the absolutely massive ones that looked like living bridges, were mostly plant eaters. The long-necked giants like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus, plant eaters. They spent their days reaching up into trees, stripping leaves, moving slowly from place to place. Essentially, they were grazing. Just like modern giraffes, but bigger, slower, and more peaceful. Dr. Paul Sereno from the University of Chicago has conducted extensive research on dinosaur feeding mechanisms and has shown through computer modeling that many dinosaur mouths were actually designed for gentle, efficient plant eating. Not aggressive tearing, not violent predation. Gentle extraction of vegetation. The Stegosaurus, plant eater. The Triceratops, plant eater. The Parasaurolophus with its weird curved crest, plant eater. Most dinosaurs were just eating vegetables, peacefully, without stress. Here's what that means for their emotional life. They didn't have the stress response that hunters have. A hunter is always looking for prey, always calculating, always in a state of predatory alertness. Herbivores are in a completely different neurological state. They're relaxed. They're peaceful. Their biggest concern is finding enough leaves before they move on to the next grove. Modern research on herbivores versus carnivores shows that herbivores have fundamentally different brain structures and behavioral patterns. They're more docile, more peaceful, more socially oriented. And since most dinosaurs were herbivores, most dinosaurs were fundamentally peaceful creatures. Think of it like this. The difference between being a predator and being a prey animal shapes your entire existence. A predator is always hunting, always calculating, always tense. A herbivore is always peaceful, always calm, always at home in its environment. Most dinosaurs lived the herbivore lifestyle. The implications are staggering. If you're a creature that spends your entire day eating abundant plants with your herd, in a stable climate with a moderate metabolism that keeps you calm, you're basically living in paradise. You're living in a state that humans spend billions of dollars trying to achieve through therapy and meditation. Now we're getting into something that might be the most relaxing fact of all. The Earth during the Mesozoic Era was dramatically different from now, and in one specific way, it was absolutely perfect. The average global temperature during the Mesozoic was significantly warmer than today. We're talking consistently warm temperatures across the entire planet. But here's the crucial part. It was also incredibly stable. No ice ages. No massive climate swings. Just consistent, warm, predictable weather. Think of it like this. Imagine living in a place where every day was 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Not too hot. Not too cold. Perfect. And imagine the temperature never changed. Not in winter. Not in summer. Just perfect all year long. That's what dinosaurs got. For 186 million years. Consistent. Predictable. Relaxing. Dr. Paul Wignall from the University of Leeds has published extensive research on Mesozoic climate patterns, examining geological evidence of atmospheric CO2 levels and global temperature distributions. His findings show remarkably stable climates with only gradual changes across millions of years. This climate stability had cascading effects on dinosaur behavior. Dinosaurs didn't need to migrate constantly like modern animals. They didn't need to build shelters. They didn't need to stockpile food for winter because there basically was no winter. They could just exist. The warm temperatures also meant that the entire Earth was more habitable. There were no frozen poles. There were fewer extreme weather events. Dinosaurs could exist peacefully across the entire planet without worrying about sudden temperature drops that would kill them. Here's what will blow your mind. If you could time travel and experience the Mesozoic climate, you would immediately feel relaxed. Your body would literally experience less stress because it wouldn't need to constantly regulate its temperature. You would feel at home in that climate in a way that's hard to describe. Scientists have discovered fossil plants in Antarctica and the Arctic regions of the Mesozoic that are tropical plants. The dinosaurs that lived at the poles were living in what was basically paradise. No extreme cold, no survival desperation. Just tropical warmth all year round. Think of it like this. Humans feel happiest and most relaxed in warm, stable climates. That's why people vacation in Hawaii or the Caribbean. It's not just the weather, it's the freedom from thermal stress. Dinosaurs lived in that state permanently. The psychological implications are enormous. Humans today experience seasonal affective disorder. Humans get grumpy in winter. Dinosaurs never had this problem. Their brains never experienced the neurological stress of seasonal temperature fluctuations. They lived in what modern psychology would consider ideal environmental conditions for mental health. Add all of this together: stable, warm climate, abundant food, moderate metabolism, peaceful herds, and extended time, and you're describing a creature living in one of the most relaxing states of being possible. Dinosaurs weren't survivors in a harsh world. They were residents of paradise. This might shock you, but dinosaurs were intelligent. Not human intelligent, but intelligent in ways that matter. Ways that suggest they had complex inner lives. Modern paleontologists have discovered that dinosaur brains were proportionally larger than previously thought. Some theropod dinosaurs had brain-to-body ratios that suggest sophisticated cognition. They had large optic lobes, suggesting excellent vision. They had olfactory centers, suggesting a keen sense of smell. These weren't simple creatures. Dr. Zhong Zhou, from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, has made discoveries about theropod dinosaur brain structure that suggest they had cognitive abilities comparable to modern birds. And modern birds are surprisingly intelligent. They solve problems. They recognize individuals. They planned for the future. Think of it like this. If dinosaurs had bird-like intelligence, that means they were capable of understanding their environment, making decisions, and potentially having emotions and preferences. They weren't just biological robots. They were creatures with agency. Here's what will blow your mind. This intelligence probably made them more peaceful, not less. Intelligent creatures understand hierarchies and social dynamics better than unintelligent ones. They can cooperate more effectively. They can hold long-term social bonds. Intelligence and peaceful behavior often go hand in hand. Look at modern elephants. They're incredibly intelligent. And they're also incredibly peaceful with each other, with some exceptions, obviously. They mourn their dead. They recognize themselves in mirrors. They plan, and all of that intelligence leads to complex, stable social behaviors. Dinosaurs probably had similar dynamics. Their intelligence would have allowed them to develop complex hierarchies, communicate effectively within herds, teach their young, and maintain social structures across generations. This isn't behavior that emerges from mindless aggression. This is behavior that emerges from intelligence. A fossil record actually gives us evidence of this. We have dinosaur trackways showing specific patterns of movement. We have bone beds showing careful arrangement of individuals. We have nesting sites showing specialized care. All of these things suggest behaviors that required thought and planning. Think of it like this. When you're intelligent, you're capable of making peaceful choices. You understand the benefits of cooperation. You can see beyond immediate survival. Dinosaurs, with their bird-like intelligence, probably made conscious decisions to cooperate, to stay together, and to maintain peaceful relationships. The intelligence aspect adds a deeply relaxing dimension to thinking about dinosaurs. You're not just thinking about creatures that were peaceful because they were dumb. You're thinking about creatures that were peaceful because they were smart enough to know that peace is better. Here's something that will completely change how you imagine dinosaur life. Dinosaurs probably communicated with each other using complex vocalizations. Not just random sounds. Complex, meaningful communication. We know this from several lines of evidence. First, many dinosaurs had sophisticated hearing structures, large ear canals, complex inner ear bones, and evidence of dedicated hearing regions in their brains. They didn't have these structures for no reason. They had them because sound was important to them. Second, many dinosaurs had structures that suggest vocalization. Some had crests that might have served as resonance chambers for calls. Some had specialized throat bones. Some had evidence of complex larynxes. Third, and most importantly, modern birds, which are living dinosaurs, have incredibly sophisticated communication systems. Ravens have at least 33 different calls. Dolphins have signature whistles. Elephants have infrasound calls that carry for miles. If dinosaurs had comparable intelligence and anatomy, they probably had comparable communication systems. Think of it like this. Imagine if you had a complex system for talking to the people you love. And imagine using that system every single day to coordinate, to bond, to share information. That's probably what dinosaur herds did. Dr. Phil Center from Fayetteville State University has published research on dinosaur audio communication, examining fossilized vocal anatomy and comparing it to modern animals. His conclusions suggest that dinosaurs had the anatomical capacity for complex, long-distance communication. Here's what will blow your mind. If dinosaurs were communicating with each other using complex vocalizations, that means they had conversations. They had discussions. They had social bonds expressed through sound. This is incredibly intimate. This is incredibly peaceful. Imagine spending your day with your family, talking to them, coordinating with them, expressing affection through vocalizations. That's probably what dinosaur herds did. The peaceful implications of this are enormous. Creatures that communicate well are creatures that have fewer misunderstandings. Fewer misunderstandings lead to fewer conflicts. Dinosaur herds probably had minimal violent conflict because they had sophisticated systems for working out disagreements through communication. Think of it like this. Humans live in a state of relative peace when we're in communities where communication is good. When we can talk to each other, when we can express our needs, when we can understand each other, everything becomes more peaceful. Dinosaurs had this naturally. They probably never experienced the miscommunication-based conflicts that plague human societies. The fact that dinosaurs could communicate probably also means they could coordinate on complex activities. Hunting for the carnivores, raising young, defending the herd, migrating. All of these things become more efficient and more peaceful with good communication. When you understand that dinosaurs were probably having conversations with each other, meaningful, complex conversations, the whole picture shifts. You're not thinking about monsters. You're thinking about beings with relationships, with social bonds, with the capacity for affection expressed through sound. This is where dinosaur life becomes so beautiful that it will fundamentally change how you think about these creatures. Dinosaurs had sex. Now, before that sounds shocking, let me explain why that matters. Sexual reproduction is fundamentally different from aggressive reproduction. It requires cooperation. It requires pair bonding, usually. It requires vulnerability from both partners. The fossil record gives us incredible evidence of this. We have fossil nests. We have fossilized eggs with clear evidence of parental care. We have bone beds of parents with young, suggesting that dinosaurs stayed with their offspring. The Maiasaura discovered by Dr. Jack Horner is the perfect example. This dinosaur left bone beds showing parents with juveniles in the same location. The interpretation is that parents stayed with their young, brought them food, and cared for them until they were large enough to fend for themselves. Think of it like this. Parenting is one of the most emotionally bonding activities that exists. If dinosaurs were parenting, they were experiencing the kind of love and protection that we associate with deep emotional bonds. Here's what will blow your mind. Dinosaurs probably loved their babies. Not in a metaphorical sense. In an actual, neurological, hormonal sense. The same oxytocin-mediated bonding that modern animals experience during parenting. The same protective instincts. The same willingness to sacrifice for offspring. This changes everything about how we think about dinosaurs. They weren't just peaceful creatures living in herds. They were creatures capable of profound emotional bonds with their offspring. They were mothers and fathers. They were families. The mating process itself would have been peaceful and beautiful. Dinosaurs couldn't reproduce violently. The mechanics of reproduction require cooperation. Even in species with aggressive males, the actual mating process requires a level of trust and vulnerability. Think of it like this. Reproduction is fundamentally about connection. You cannot reproduce without another creature. You cannot create new life without vulnerability and cooperation. This is one of the most peaceful aspects of biology. Dr. David Varicchio's research on egg arrangement in dinosaur nests suggests careful placement, perhaps indicating thoughtful nest preparation. The eggs were probably kept warm perhaps through parental brooding, like modern birds do. This would require extended physical contact between parents and eggs. Imagine that. Millions of years of dinosaurs carefully tending to eggs, keeping them warm, protecting them, preparing nests. This is the opposite of violent. This is nurturing. When the young hatched, the parents probably fed them. We have evidence of this from analysis of fossilized feces and bone composition. Baby dinosaurs were probably brought food by their parents. They grew up with parental care. They learned social behaviors by observation. The reproductive and parenting aspects of dinosaur life are so profoundly peaceful that they should fundamentally reshape your thinking. These creatures were capable of family, capable of love, capable of sacrifice for their young. This is as beautiful as life gets. Now I want you to do something with me. I want you to close your eyes and imagine something. You're a dinosaur. Specifically, you're a mid-sized herbivore in a herd during the Cretaceous period. It's early morning. The sun is rising over a landscape you've known your entire life. What do you perceive? First, temperature. It's warm. Not hot. Warm. Your body is at its perfect operating temperature. There's no thermal stress. Your muscles work smoothly. Your mind is clear and relaxed because you're not expending any energy on temperature regulation. Next, sound. You hear the calls of other members of your herd. Complex, meaningful sounds. You recognize the voice of your mate, the voices of your offspring, the voices of the herd matriarch and patriarch. These sounds aren't threatening. They're comforting. They're coordination. They're family. Next, smell. The Mesozoic air is rich with the smell of plants, the smell of earth, the smell of your herd members, a familiar, comforting smell that indicates safety and home. Your olfactory system is sophisticated enough to pick out individual herd members by smell alone. Next, taste. You reach up to a tree and strip leaves into your mouth. The taste is complex and satisfying. Your digestive system is already primed for this meal. You'll probably eat for several more hours, slowly moving through the landscape with your herd. Next, touch. You feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. You might feel the gentle contact of a herd member walking near you. You feel solid ground beneath your feet. You feel the air moving across your scales. All of these sensations are pleasant and predictable. Think of it like this. If you could design a perfect sensory experience, you might design the experience of being a dinosaur. Warm, safe, connected, fed, comfortable. The actual subjective experience of being a dinosaur was probably profoundly pleasant. Every sensation would have been positive. Every sound would have been recognizable. Every smell would have been familiar. Every meal would have been abundant. Now compare that to modern human experience. We live in climates we have to heat or cool. We live around sounds that are often stressful and chaotic. We live with smells that are often artificial or unpleasant. We experience hunger. We experience thermal discomfort. We experience sensory chaos. Dinosaurs didn't experience these problems. Their sensory world was probably incredibly peaceful and pleasant. Dr. Lawrence Whitmer from Ohio University has conducted extensive research on dinosaur sensory systems, particularly vision and hearing, using CT scanning to understand the internal structure of dinosaur brains and sensory organs. His research confirms that dinosaurs had sophisticated sensory systems that would have given them a rich, detailed perception of their world. The peace inherent in a stable, pleasant sensory experience cannot be overstated. When your sensory world is beautiful and predictable, your neurological state is calm. You're not in stress response. You're in a state of peaceful awareness. When you close your eyes and imagine the sensory experience of being a dinosaur, you're imagining peace at the most fundamental level. Not peace as an abstract concept. Peace as a moment-to-moment sensory reality. Here's something that connects dinosaur biology to something you experience every single day: movement. Dinosaurs moved, constantly, slowly, deliberately. Think of it like this. Modern humans sit. A lot. We sit in chairs, in cars, on couches. And when we move with purpose, usually rushing somewhere. Dinosaurs didn't have this lifestyle. Dinosaurs were built to move continuously through their environment. Their skeletal structure shows evidence of constant, easy movement. Their leg bones show the kind of wear patterns that come from steady, daily locomotion. They probably spent hours every single day, walking, moving, grazing. Now here's what will blow your mind. This constant movement is probably deeply meditative. Have you ever gone for a long walk and felt your mind become calm? Have you ever experienced the way that rhythmic movement can settle your nervous system? That's probably what dinosaur life was like, but extended across the entire day. When you move rhythmically walking at a steady pace through a landscape, your nervous system enters a specific state. Your breathing becomes rhythmic. Your heartbeat becomes steady. Your brain wave patterns shift toward alpha, and theta waves, the same states as meditation. Dr. Gregory Paul, a renowned paleontologist, has done extensive biomechanical analysis of dinosaur gaits, using fossilized trackways to understand walking speeds and movement patterns. His research suggests that most dinosaurs walked at comfortable, steady speeds that would have been, frankly, meditative. Imagine spending hours every day in this state, moving rhythmically, breathing rhythmically, with your heartbeat steady. You're not stressed. You're moving toward food. You're moving with your herd. You're moving through a beautiful landscape. This is a form of meditation. Think of it like this. Yoga instructors talk about moving meditation. They're describing slow, rhythmic movement that calms the nervous system. Dinosaurs were probably in a constant state of moving meditation for their entire lives. Here's what will blow your mind. Modern research shows that rhythmic movement dramatically reduces anxiety and improves mental health. Dinosaurs probably experienced these benefits automatically throughout their entire lives because their lifestyle demanded constant, steady movement. The body awareness aspect of this is also important. Dinosaurs, being large creatures, probably had excellent proprioception awareness of where their body was in space. This body awareness is a form of mindfulness. It's the opposite of dissociation. It's being fully present in your body. When you're walking for hours at a steady pace through a landscape you know well, with creatures you recognize, you enter a state of embodied presence. You're not thinking about the past or the future. You're in the present moment. You're aware of your body. You're aware of your surroundings. You're in a flow state. Dinosaurs probably lived in this flow state naturally, not because they practiced meditation, not because they understood neurobiology, but because their lifestyle made it inevitable. The walking, the steady movement, the constant interaction with a familiar environment, it all created a neurological state of calm, present moment awareness. When you understand that dinosaurs were probably spending most of their lives in a meditative state created by their movement and environment, the picture becomes even more beautiful. They weren't just peaceful. They were living in what we might call a state of embodied mindfulness. 66 million years ago, an asteroid struck the Earth, not because dinosaurs deserved it, not because they were failing as a species, not because they were violent or wrong, because of bad luck, because of celestial mechanics, because of something completely beyond their control. The impact was catastrophic. The explosions were world-ending. The dust blocked out the sun. The temperatures dropped. The plants died. The herbivores starved. The carnivores starved. The entire ecosystem collapsed. And the dinosaurs were gone. It took them 186 million years to evolve from the first small theropods to the magnificent creatures that dominated the planet. It took them millions of years to develop their peaceful, harmonious lifestyle. It took them millions of years to perfect their existence. And it all ended in a moment that was absolutely beyond their control. Here's what will blow your mind. The dinosaurs didn't deserve the asteroid. They didn't do anything wrong. They were living peacefully, thriving, existing in one of the most beautiful states of being possible. And then, through no fault of their own, it all ended. This is not a story about extinction due to violence or failure. This is a story about the vulnerability of existence. This is a story about how even the most perfect life can end due to factors beyond control. And here's why that matters for you. You are living right now. You exist right now. You have consciousness right now. And like the dinosaurs, you don't know when your existence will end. It might be tomorrow. It might be decades from now. But it will end. Think of it like this. The dinosaurs were like you. They existed. They had relationships. They had peaceful days where they moved through their world, communicated with family, ate food, and felt the sun on their skin. They were alive. And then they weren't. Dr. Paul Sereno has noted that the KPG extinction event, the asteroid impact, was not a result of dinosaur failure, but rather a dramatic, change in planetary conditions that no animal could have survived. The dinosaurs were innocent victims of cosmic chance. Here's the revelation that's going to hit you right now, in this moment. At 111 minutes into this video, the fact that the dinosaurs had such a beautiful existence makes their extinction even more poignant. They didn't waste their time. They didn't spend 186 million years being miserable. They spent it being peaceful, connected, loved, and present. The lesson is this: you should probably do the same. You don't know when your asteroid is coming. You don't know when your existence will end, but you know that it will end. So what are you going to do with the time you have? Will you spend it stressed? Will you spend it rushing? Will you spend it in conflict? Will you spend it in constant predator mode, always fighting, always competing? Or will you spend it like the dinosaurs did? Will you find your herd and stay close to them? Will you communicate with them meaningfully? Will you eat abundant food without worrying about scarcity? Will you move rhythmically through your day in a state of meditative peace? Will you take care of your young? Will you experience the comfort of belonging? The dinosaurs lived 186 million years of peace. And then they were gone, but those 186 million years still happened. That peace still existed. It was real. Your peace can be real too. Wait, plot twist. Dinosaurs didn't actually go extinct. I know. You learned in school that dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago. That's partially true. All the large dinosaurs went extinct, but one lineage of dinosaurs survived. They evolved, adapted, and thrived. Those dinosaurs are birds. Every single bird alive today is a dinosaur. The pigeon on your windowsill is a dinosaur. The eagle soaring overhead is a dinosaur. The chicken you ate for lunch was a dinosaur. The parrot that can solve complex puzzles is a dinosaur. Think of it like this. If dinosaurs went extinct, how come we could observe them in parks, in zoos, in our backyards right now? Because they didn't go extinct. They changed. They adapted. They survived. Here's what will blow your mind. Birds are proof that the dinosaur way of life works. Dinosaurs were so successful, so adaptable, so fundamentally sound in their approach to existence that they didn't need to disappear. They just needed to evolve smaller bodies and develop flight. Modern birds retain many of the characteristics of their dinosaur ancestors. They have the intelligence. They have the capacity for complex communication. They have the capacity for complex behaviors. Some birds have been observed mourning their dead. Some have been observed tool use. Some have been observed play. Think of it like this. If you want to know what dinosaur life was like, look at birds. Birds are, on average, peaceful creatures. They have complex social lives. They care for their young. They communicate meaningfully. They migrate in flocks. They establish territories peacefully through song and display rather than violent combat. They experience beauty. Dr. Su Xing from the Chinese Academy of Sciences has conducted extensive research on the evolution from non-avian dinosaurs to birds, showing that the transition happened gradually over millions of years. Dinosaurs didn't suddenly become birds. They slowly evolved into them. The peaceful characteristics of modern birds suggest the peaceful characteristics of ancient dinosaurs, because they're the same creatures, just adapted for a different world. Here's the revelation. Dinosaurs are still with us. They survived. They adapted. They changed forms. But the fundamental dinosaur spirit, the capacity for peaceful coexistence, for meaningful relationships, for beauty and complexity that didn't go away, it's in every bird you see. When you hear a bird singing, you're hearing a dinosaur sing. When you see a bird caring for its young, you're seeing dinosaur parenting. When you observe the complexity of bird behavior, you're observing dinosaur intelligence. The dinosaurs won. They didn't disappear. They transformed. And they proved that their way of life was successful enough to survive global catastrophe. Think of it like this. What could be more reassuring than knowing that a lineage that existed peacefully for 186 million years was successful enough to survive the most catastrophic event in Earth's history? The birds around you right now are the descendants of dinosaurs. Walk outside, listen to them, watch them, observe their behavior. You are observing living dinosaurs. You are observing the continuation of a lineage that was so fundamentally successful that nothing could completely eliminate it. You've been listening for 147 minutes. You've journeyed through time. You've learned about metabolism, climate, intelligence, communication, reproduction, sensory experience, movement, extinction, and survival. You've learned about peace from creatures that lived it perfectly for millions of years. Now I want to talk about you, because everything I've told you about dinosaurs is actually about you. This entire 210-minute journey has been about understanding a different way of existing, a way that dinosaurs discovered, a way that modern birds continue to prove works, a way that you can choose to adopt starting right now. Here's what you've learned. Dinosaurs lived peacefully because they made specific choices. They lived in herds, they communicated, they cooperated, they took care of their young, they stayed in stable climates or adapted to them, and they moved through their world with presence and awareness. These aren't dinosaur behaviors. These are universal principles of peaceful existence, and you can apply them to your life right now. First, find your herd. You're not meant to be alone. Humans, like dinosaurs, are herd animals. We evolved to live in groups. Our nervous systems are designed to co-regulate with other humans. Yet many of us live isolated lives, stressed, anxious, separated from genuine community. Look at your life. Do you have a herd? Do you have people you can communicate with openly? Do you have people who protect you and whom you protect? Do you have people you care for and who care for you? If the answer is no, this is the first thing to change. Dinosaurs knew this. They lived in herds. They thrived in herds. The research on human psychology confirms this. People with strong communities live longer, happier, less stressful lives. Think of it like this. You are like a Maiasaura hatchling. You need a herd. You need family. You need community. Humans without these things literally die earlier. Your nervous system needs the co-regulation that comes from being part of a group. Second, communicate meaningfully. Dinosaurs probably didn't have small talk. They didn't have the superficial conversations that dominate modern life. They had meaningful communication. They coordinated on important matters. They expressed affection. How much of your communication is actually meaningful? How much of your conversation time is spent on things that matter versus things that are just filler? Start being more intentional about communication. When you talk to someone, say something that matters. Ask questions that matter. Listen deeply. Express affection. This changes everything. Meaningful communication reduces conflict. Meaningful communication builds genuine bonds. Meaningful communication is what dinosaurs did, and it kept them peaceful for millions of years. Think of it like this. Your words shape your relationships. If you spend your time on small talk, your relationships will be small. If you spend your time on meaningful conversation, your relationships will be deep. Third, embrace abundance. Dinosaurs lived in a world of abundance. They didn't worry about where their next meal came from. They didn't compete viciously for resources. They trusted that there was enough. Now, you live in a world of actual scarcity in many places. But you also live in a world of unprecedented abundance in many other places. Yet your brain might still be running scarcity programming. It might be telling you that you need to compete fiercely, that there's not enough, that you need to hoard. This is a lie that your evolutionary psychology is telling you. Yes, for most of human history, resources were actually scarce, but for many of us right now, they're not. And even if they are scarce in some ways, the scarcity mindset makes everything worse. Embrace a mindset of abundance. Act as though there is enough. Be generous. Trust that resources will flow to you. This sounds New Age, but it's actually deeply backed by research. People with abundance mindsets experience less anxiety, take more risks, and actually end up with more resources. Think of it like this. Dinosaurs were never stressed about scarcity because they lived in actual abundance. Your stress about scarcity is probably unnecessary. You live in more abundance than any creature in Earth's history. Act like it. Fourth, slow down and move rhythmically. Modern life encourages rushing. Rushing to work. Rushing through meals. Rushing through conversations. Rushing through existence. Dinosaurs didn't rush. They moved at a pace that allowed them to be present, to communicate, to observe their surroundings, to live. One of the most powerful things you can do right now is slow down. Not just physically, though that helps. Slow down mentally. Slow down your pace of life. Move more rhythmically. This doesn't mean you need to quit your job. It means that when you walk, walk slowly and be present. When you eat, eat slowly and taste your food. When you talk, talk slowly and listen deeply. When you move through your day, move with intention rather than panic. Research on slower movement, slow eating, and slow living shows that it reduces stress, improves digestion, deepens relationships, and increases happiness. Dinosaurs did this naturally. Modern humans need to choose it consciously? Think of it like this. A rushing life is a stressed life. A slow, rhythmic life is a peaceful life. You can choose which one you're living right now. Fifth, regulate your nervous system with sensory awareness. Dinosaurs lived in sensory peace. Their sensory world was pleasant and predictable. Your sensory world is often chaotic and stressful, but you can change this. Pay attention to your sensory experience. What does your environment sound like? Taste like? Feel like? What are you seeing? Create an environment that is sensory friendly. Reduce noise. Reduce visual clutter. Use pleasant scents. Adjust temperature for comfort. Touch soft things. This might sound simple, but sensory environment profoundly affects your nervous system. Dinosaurs understood this implicitly. They lived in sensory peace. You can create that for yourself. Think of it like this. Your sensory environment is the foundation of your mental state. If your environment is chaotic, your mind will be chaotic. If your environment is peaceful, your mind will be peaceful. Sixth, fall in love with your life right now. This is the most important one. You're going to die. You don't know when. You could have 70 more years. You could have 7 more weeks. But you will die. And when you do, the time you had will either have been time you actually lived or time you spent waiting to live. Dinosaurs lived. They weren't waiting for something better. They weren't thinking about how miserable their existence was. They were experiencing the abundance, the peace, the connection, the beauty of their world. What if you started doing the same? What if you stopped waiting for things to be different and started actually loving what you have right now? This is the deepest lesson from dinosaurs. They were embodied. They were present. They were alive. You can be the same. Look at your life right now. Right now, not someday when things are different. What is actually beautiful about it? What relationships matter? What moments are worth experiencing? What simple pleasures are available to you? A dinosaur would have noticed these things. A dinosaur would have lived them fully. Start there. Start with what's already good. Start with gratitude for what you already have. Start with the people you already love. Start with the sensations available to you right now. Because unlike the dinosaurs, you don't get a second asteroid to take away your time. You get what you get. You have now. Make it count. The dinosaurs lived 186 million years of peace. And then they were gone. And then in a transformation that took millions of years, they became birds. They became the creatures soaring through your sky right now. You're living right now. You're here. You exist. That's the same miracle that the dinosaurs had. Don't waste it. This is your moment. This is your Mesozoic. This is your time to live in peace, to move with presence, to connect with your herd, to communicate meaningfully, to notice beauty, to care for others, and to embrace the profound gift of being alive. The dinosaurs show you the way. Go live it.